You've probably been told your whole life that you think too much. But what if that was never the problem? What if your brain isn't broken? What if it's seeing patterns other people miss? Please stay with me for the next few minutes because I'm about to flip your broken brain story on its head completely. What if the thing everyone told you was a flaw is actually one of the most sophisticated cognitive advantages a human brain can have? What if the very thing exhausting you is also the thing that makes you exceptional? Let's start with the brain itself because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. There is a region of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. It sits right behind your forehead, and it is essentially the CEO of your entire cognitive operation. It handles planning, decision-making, anticipating future consequences, understanding nuance, and holding multiple variables in mind simultaneously. Most animals have some version of this structure, but in humans, it is dramatically larger, more developed, and more connected to the rest of the brain than in any other species on the planet. Now here is the critical piece. People who overthink have measurably higher activity in the prefrontal cortex. This is not speculation, this is neuroscience. Their brains are running more complex simulations, processing more possibilities, weighing more outcomes before committing to a decision. That is not dysfunction. That is a brain doing exactly what the most sophisticated cognitive architecture on Earth was designed to do. You are not broken. You are running a more advanced program. But there is something else happening too that almost nobody talks about. Overthinkers have a uniquely active default mode network. This is the system in your brain that fires when you are not focused on an external task. It is the network responsible for self-reflection, for imagining other perspectives, for connecting seemingly unrelated ideas, for creative thought, and for something called mental time travel, which is the ability to mentally simulate past events and future scenarios with remarkable detail. The default mode network is one of the things that separates human cognition from virtually everything else in the animal kingdom. And in overthinkers, this network does not easily turn off. Most people see that as a problem. I want you to see it as data. Your brain is literally more active in the regions associated with complex thinking, creativity, empathy, and foresight. The issue has never been that you think too much. The issue is that nobody ever gave you the right framework for what your brain is actually doing. Here is a reframe that might change everything for you. What gets labeled as overthinking is almost always one of three things. It is either deep analysis, meaning your brain is genuinely trying to solve a problem, and it is doing so thoroughly. Or it is pattern recognition, meaning your brain has picked up on something subtle in a situation that does not quite add up, and it is running through scenarios trying to identify what feels off. Or it is what psychologists call elaborative processing, which is essentially your brain making rich, complex connections between new information and everything else you already know. All three of these are cognitive strengths, elite strengths. Think about the fields where these abilities are most valued: strategy, medicine, law, writing, research, engineering, design, therapy, leadership. Every single one of those domains rewards the exact mental processes that overthinkers perform naturally and constantly. The same brain that keeps you awake at night running through scenarios is the brain that catches what everyone else missed, that asks the question nobody else thought to ask, that sees the implication 3 steps ahead of where the conversation currently is. You have been optimized for complex environments. You just might be living in one that has not recognized it yet. Now, I want to be honest with you here because this is not a video that is going to tell you that overthinking has 0 downsides. That would be dishonest, and it would not actually help you. There is a real cost. When the same cognitive machinery that makes you exceptional is running without direction or context, it can loop, it can catastrophize, it can find threats that are not there. It can keep you stuck in analysis paralysis at the exact moment you need to act. The problem is never the depth of your thinking. The problem is the absence of an off switch or a steering mechanism. You have a powerful engine without always having full control of the wheel. And that distinction matters enormously, because the solution is not to think less. The solution is to think better, directed, intentional, with closure built in. The highest performers in cognitively demanding fields are not people with simple minds. They are people who learn to harness the very thing you have naturally. They learn to use that deep processing as a tool rather than letting it run them. They built mental systems around it. They created structured ways to give their brain the resolution it is constantly searching for. When your brain loops on something, it is not being dramatic. It is being thorough. It is trying to conclude, and it has not found one it trusts yet. That is actually healthy behavior from a problem-solving standpoint. The loop only becomes a liability when there is no conclusion available, when you are trying to solve an unsolvable problem or control an uncontrollable outcome. Give your brain a conclusion it can accept, and the loop stops. The engine finally rests. This is something overthinkers learn, and it changes everything. There is also a deeply undervalued social dimension to this. People who overthink tend to be extraordinarily aware of other people. They notice tone shifts in conversation. They pick up on what was not said as much as what was. They read rooms. They anticipate how a decision will affect different people in different ways. Psychologists connect this to what is called the theory of mind, your capacity to model the mental states of others, to understand that other people have different thoughts, feelings, and intentions than you do. High theory of mind is associated with emotional intelligence, with complex social navigation, with leadership that actually earns trust. And overthinkers often have it in abundance. The person in the room who is quiet but processing everything, who asks the question that shifts the entire conversation, who thought 3 scenarios ahead, and that is exactly why they spoke up when they did. That person is not anxious. That person is operating. Their depth of processing is functioning exactly as designed. Now, let me bring this back to you personally because that is what actually matters. You have probably spent a significant portion of your life apologizing for the way your mind works. Feeling guilty for not being able to just let things go. Feeling frustrated that your brain does not seem to have an easy setting. Wondering why other people seem so unbothered by things that tie you in knots for days. Stop apologizing for your brain. You are carrying cognitive equipment that most people do not have access to. The depth you experience is real. The connections you make are real. The patterns you notice that other people walk straight past are real. The exhaustion is real too. I am not dismissing that, but exhaustion is not evidence of weakness. It is evidence of effort. Your brain is working hard. The question is whether you are directing that effort or whether it is directing you. The overthinkers who thrive are not the ones who learn to stop thinking deeply. They are the ones who decided that their depth was worth something, who stopped treating their mental intensity as a disorder and started treating it as a resource, who built their lives around environments and challenges and relationships that reward what their brain naturally does. You are not the person who thinks too much. You are the person who thinks at a level most people never reach, and the world has not always had language to honor that. But the science does. The neuroscience is clear. Your prefrontal cortex engagement, your default mode network activity, your elaborative processing, your theory of mind, these are not symptoms of a problem. These are markers of a brain built for complexity. The world is more complex than it has ever been. It needs people exactly like you. So the next time someone tells you that you think too much, you can smile. Because now you know what they are actually saying without realizing it. They are telling you that your brain is doing something their brain is not. And that is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to understand, to develop, and ultimately to use. You were never broken. You were just waiting for someone to explain the machine.